What's up, everyone? It's Dakota, and today I'm going to be bringing you a match that I played in the Pioneer format. One of the most popular decks that I actually went over on my channel, period, and what kind of like blew up this like Pioneer resurgence for my channel, where they were relatively doing worse than anything else that I was posting. We're going to be looking at the Hidden Strings combo deck. So essentially, what this deck is trying to do is trying to assemble Lotus Field and a Thespian Stage in play to copy said Lotus Field, and then just kind of like chain a bunch of spells together, cast Emergent Ultimatums, and try to win by casting like Approach to the Second Sun from the sideboard. I wonder if I can pull it up here. So here we go. You have this card like Approach to the Second Sun that if you cast from your hand, and if you cast another spell named Approach to the Second Sun, you win the game. Otherwise, you gain 7 life and you put it 7 cards from the top. The rest of the sideboard, you just have ways to search and um, the ways to search like these cards out of the sideboard and things like that. So this is a match I played. This match gets to showcase like the really just like the power of the deck and the things that the deck is capable of. So as you can see, game one, mulligan to 6, put a card to the bottom, actually leaving this Behold the Beyond, which I'm not sure is necessarily correct, but we just played like the Botanical Sanctum past the turn. We have Thespian Stage to go fetch our we'll find it here in a second, our Lotus Field. So then the next turn that we can play it, able to not playing the Thespian Stage, because if we play Thespian Stage, then we have to wait a turn on Lotus Field, and then we actually wouldn't be able to copy it on the next turn we play it. So we drew Emergent Ultimatum. Emergent Ultimatum, if this will pause for a second, you search for 3 monocolored cards with different names, you exile them, an opponent chooses one of them to shuffle back into your library, and you cast the other 2 without paying a mana cost, and you exile Emergent Ultimatum. So essentially what we have set up here is like we've now played this Lotus Field, we floated mana. Um, we technically have the option here that we could Hidden Strings if we really want to, but it doesn't accomplish anything. Or we could like Besage You, blow up a land if we feel like that like we could somehow like mana screw them. But at this moment in time, we think that they're a green black deck. They give us no inclination. We know it's a 3-color deck. We find out later with like what they're trying to do. But in this scenario, like besageing like a land when we think that they're just straight green black, they probably have plenty of basic lands that they can go get. We're not taking them off any colors necessarily. So with this, like we float the mana, just kind of a good thing to get into habit for. Pass a turn, they get to do their thing. They play like a Grizzly Salvage, and this is kind of where we find out like what they are. Um, Essentially, I believe it's gonna finish up to there. Okay, good. So we see a Parhelion in their graveyard. Greasefang is usually what you see with like Parhelion, um, just for the fact that like Greasefang will bring it back into play, cruise it, it attacks, hits you for 13 damage, and then returns the Parhelion to hand, and just having multiple ways of beating us that way. Notably, they're also playing Deathrite Shaman, which Deathrite Shaman can give this deck a little bit of trouble when it has spells that it wants to cast from its graveyard. If we just have this one Hidden Strings in our graveyard and we have like a Leer, Deathrite Shaman could just eat this Hidden Strings right out from underneath of us and not give us the chance really to uh, use it again and generate tons of mana. So Deathrite Shaman can be a little bit annoying for this deck. So they attack, they pass. We just play the Thespian Stage, pass the turn. Can't remember if this game they uh, use their Concealed Courtyard to get the mana they need for Greasefang, crew it up, and they get to do exactly what they want to show off. They hit for 14 damage, putting us to 5, and essentially forcing us to win the next turn. Which, with what we have set up currently, we can float mana. We're gonna making like blue and black with this, and then leaving 2 blue and 2 black floating to Hidden Strings to untap these, and then we have a Lotus Field untap to cast like an Emergent Ultimatum. So we'll go into that. We draw the Leer, which kind of sucks, but like I guess to me, like it really doesn't. While I'm kind of going through the combo, um, here we are. We took a Masterminds acquisition, a Pour Over the Pages, and Omniscience. So essentially, with this, if they give us the Omniscience and they say shuffle back like a Pour Over the Pages, We'll get to Mastermind's acquisition to go get a way to untap these lands, more than likely getting another hidden strings. And then obviously with like the omniscience and stuff, like we don't need to necessarily make tons of mana, but we do need mana to cast like the cards in our graveyard. So really, this Mastermind's acquisition could turn into anything. It could just become an Approach of the Second Sun, and then like we can cast Leer for free and play like Hidden Strings and things like that. A lot of things you can do from this position. Of course, our opponent shuffles back the Omniscience. We flow mana. We make 3 green because we're just going to get an Emergent Ultimatum with the Mastermind's acquisition, and then we're just going to cast more Pour Over the Pages, and then we're going to get to Emergent Ultimatum again. Eventually at some point, because I just kind of like hold off and try to make sure I can do it again. Roughly the same piles. We get a Dig Through Time, Pour Over the Pages to untap some lands, draw some more cards, dig even deeper. I believe we take an Iteration and a Pour. Cast an Iteration gets cast a Pour Over the Pages to make more mana. And essentially this is the deck like going off. We're essentially at the point now where if we find an Omniscience, we get to cast the Omniscience and then just play the rest of the cards in our hand. Here I go, casting like the 3rd Emergent Ultimatum on turn 5. Just getting to get back some other cards, float a bunch more mana. I can't remember what we get with this Balaged. We get the Hidden Strings to just make more mana. We cast the Leer and just kind of just keep getting to churn through the deck. Again, essentially just looking for a Omniscience. We can go eventually just search for the win condition on our sideboard, and then just having so few cards in our deck, we're able just to grab said cards, the Approach of the Second Sun, to do it that way. And I believe our opponent conceded or Moto locked up, one of the two. I think Moto locked up. But yeah, essentially, this kind of sucks too because I really want to show it off. Can I pay it? No? Okay. Playback finished, exiting. Okay, so this is our opponent conceded. So we got some Mastermind acquisition. We go and get Approach of the Second Sun, which I actually think we ended up getting the Omniscience. We put Omniscience into play. Balligate Recovery is going to get just about any card in our graveyard. You can get back the other Mastermind's acquisition, or we can just cast it with the Leer, which at this point we can just cast with like the Leer. We're just going to make a ton of mana, and then we're going to get going to be able to Mastermind's acquisition, go get the Approach of the Second Sun, cast Approach, put it 7 from the top, and then just get to like, cast a Pour Over the Pages to dig 3 cards, and then a Shimmer possibility to find the last Approach and then cast it for free off of our Omniscience. So that's game 1 in a nutshell. We got to do our thing. Kind of cool because we got to see both games. We lost game 2. I want to say game 2, I just kind of I messed up, and it's really easy to mess up with this deck when there's a lot of stuff going on here. Another game where we mulligan to 6. So here I believe it happened in this match. So we have Otawara, which is going to be important like these sideboarded games because you're going to have people bringing in cards like Damping Sphere that just stop your Lotus Field from producing a ton of mana and stops you from casting a ton of spells. You also have Deafening Silence, which makes it so players can only cast one non-creature spell each turn, and then you have some other taxi type cards that make you cast one spell, makes other spells over a certain mana cost more. And Otawara is kind of your catch-all answer, tutorable with your Sylvan Scryings and things of that nature. Also, just getting to cast one cantrip a turn, like Shimmer or Pour Over the Pages, while not super ideal to do on a turn where you won't necessarily be able to do anything more. Just a lot better than doing nothing. So Otawara definitely can be an answer that doesn't cost you your spell for the turn to get rid of those problematic permanents. So we have a Temple. I believe we put that card on top because another Pour Over the Page is sweet. We have our Lotus Field Thespian stage. And here's Deafening Silence. So it's okay. We end up playing Thespian stage, Shimmer for another land. We can kind of afford to take it slow because our opponent, obviously it's the first turn, not putting any pressure on us to. They mill nothing of note. So then we just kind of get to keep going, find the hidden strings, which is going to be sweet. Putting the land to the bottom because we don't need it. And now with this, and this is going to be a moment that we want to remember. Uh, Good thing for our opponent, like they didn't leave up mana, but here in a second it'll be kind of relevant. So we'll go to our turn. Our plan is going to be that we can just Lotus Field, put this into play, we flow mana, sack these, and then we have some options here. Since we have like multiple hidden strings and multiple pour over the pages, we could try to go off this turn. Uh, Obviously, there's a deafening silence in play, um, but we could, in theory, like untap these, turn Thespian Stage into a land, and then do some other stuff. I think I opt to wait and just make this into a Lotus Field while they're tapped out. If you try to turn Thespian Stage into a Lotus Field and your opponent has like a Beseiju, they can just blow up the Thespian Stage in response to the Thespian Stage activation, and then obviously the land doesn't have hexproof yet. So you want to do either A, when your opponent is tapped out, like you want to take any opportunity to do it against like those green decks, um, or just like wait for your opponent to like play some spells and stuff. Obviously, we're in a position where if we didn't do it now, we waited until their turn. I think we'd be okay. Like don't think I remember seeing a Beseiju in games 1 or 2, but it's something that you don't want to open yourself up to because it is a popular card in the format. So Lotus Field does its thing. We make sure that we sack 2 lands and we just immediately copy the Lotus Field, or so we would have if we weren't dumb and tried to click really fast and just did what we just did, made Thespian Stage a copy of Thespian Stage. So super tilt, but that's fine. They play a Chariot. Makes it a little bit harder for us because now we're going to have to auto aura and bounce this instead of just being able to untap with another one and be able to bounce it along with just getting to hidden strings and make a ton of mana and just start going through our deck. Which again sucks, but is what it is. We draw another Thespian Stage. We auto war to bounce it, float some more of the mana, get to hidden strings to make more mana, and then pour over the pages to just really start going off and generating some value. We find an ultimatum, we untap some lands, which then allows us to cast the ultimatum, and we're kind of off to the races from there. Our opponent, relatively tapped out. I mean, I believe here they give us the pour over the pages and the omniscience. We get to get rid of some of these cards, and we get to cast, fade, go to the sideboard, go get approach, cast approach, and then just keep digging through the deck. We have this Masterminds acquisition, so we can get it at any time that we want to. But I just wanted to see if I could draw to it, and that's how we win the game. So some kind of cool things to note and things that we got to see from the deck that I kind of wanted to show off, and things I may or may not have highlighted in the video. But as we saw there, like on the first turn of the game, our opponent played a Deafening Silence, and we were able to answer it with one of our utility lands, and then go off on the same turn. With some less than optimal playing, obviously having the Thespian Stage copy the Thespian Stage, we would have been able to do this a turn sooner. We'd have been able to do it on turn 5, a lot less pressure from our opponent. I believe even when I recorded the video and actually gave like live commentary for it, I was talking about the Deathrite Shaman could be a little bit annoying if we decided to go for Lear, for the fact that they could just eat one of our spells. But in that game in particular, it kind of didn't matter because we had 2 copies of each one. Sometimes you just kind of have it all, and that game we certainly did. But yeah, so that's kind of a breakdown of this Lotus Field deck. The 2 games we got to see it do its thing. One game where it just had to kind of like keep churning through the deck, which is fine. Like the deck obviously does it very well. The fact that we had to cast 3 Emergent Ultimatums in the same turn is really sweet. But and then in this game in particular, our opponent basically just had to hope that we didn't go for it, and I can't read signs, so I just decided to go for it. And they didn't have anything. The worst thing here is like Beseiju, but I don't think that we're necessarily beating Beseiju. And it's smart for them to just kind of wait and hold on. Because obviously if they if we approach even and they let us get it and then we cast it for free, yeah, in 7 turns we could get it back, but they're going to kill us way before then, and we obviously have no gas at all whatsoever. Um, Getting to answer like the Isuka's Chariot is going to be one thing, but they're just going to have so much pressure in play, it's not going to matter. So that's the Lotus Field deck. Not the kind of gameplay that I was hoping to bring to the channel. I was hoping to bring like my live, like in the moment, like commentary and thinking about the matchups and stuff like that. Um, the Greasefang decks are decks that you could run into. They can obviously put a lot of power into play really quickly, put you on a fast clock. Um, Hoping that I can get some gameplay against some of the other aggressive decks like the Boros aggro deck, the mono white deck, which I actually believe I played against a mono white deck. Maybe I'll go over that matchup another time, or hopefully run into it again. But I did believe that I ended up winning that match. Because again, you get things like Otawara and Beseiju and stuff like that, and they help out the matchups tremendously. So, if you guys enjoyed that and you want to see more live gameplay and things like that, and hopefully not me just breaking down matches I already played, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell so you know when I post videos. I always post deck techs, starting to get into gameplay and some other discussion videos as well. So if that stuff interests you, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Leave a like if you enjoy the content, stuff like that. Makes me feel happy. Gives me my dose of dopamine for the week when someone leaves a like on the video. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me this video. Hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in the next video.